souls. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. My name is Carolyn and this channel is all about true crime, mystery, and anything abnormal. I highly recommend subscribing because this channel is definitely a vibe. So let's get right into today's story. Tanya Bodanovich and Michael McGregor had very little in common. They did, however, share very dark fantasies that would lead to murder. Michael McGregor was born in Sarian, Ontario, Canada in 1994. Michael grew up in Sarian, Ontario, Canada. He grew up middle class. He had no issues with the law as a child, and he was very popular in his neighborhood, and he had very good family relationships. In high school, things began to change. He had almost no interests, and he didn't really seem to have much interest in developing relationships or friendships or really having anything to do with anyone. After high school, he applied and began attending college. But as soon as he started college, he realized he didn't really have any interest in this, and he definitely wasn't willing to do the work needed to actually be successful in college. So during his first semester, he ended up dropping out. He lived with his parents and he delivered pizza part-time to earn some money for himself. He was 18 and he really wanted to find a girlfriend. The problem was he wanted to find a girlfriend that had the same interests as him. And his interests were very dark. And he didn't really know how he would find someone who would share the same desires as him. Michael spent most of his time online. And while he was online, he spent most of his time on BDSM websites. And the thing is that the websites didn't seem to be extreme enough for him. He would download videos and images, and he realized very quickly that the more violent the video or the image was, the more turned on he was. As I had mentioned, he had downloaded thousands of videos and images. The problem was he didn't want to sit and watch videos. He wanted to actually act out the things being done in these videos. Michael in the BDSM world would be considered a sub, meaning submissive. So he is looking for a dom, which is a dominant partner. During his time online, he came across a website called FetLife, which is a Canadian website that is dedicated to the BDSM lifestyle. On this website, some people go on this website to find partners who share their interests. Some people go on the website just to look at pictures and videos that people who are part of the website have uploaded. People also go on there and there's like chat forums where they just discuss their fantasies and give each other ideas and maybe teach each other things that maybe they want to do that's a little bit more extreme. And I just want to be clear in this video, I'm not trying to kink shame anyone. If something's happening between two consenting adults, I am all for it. The problem in this situation is it's going to get to the point where a person want someone involved that's not consenting. Michael's sole purpose on FetLife was to find a dom. In 2012, Michael met a woman who was 10 years his senior named Tanya. At this time, Michael is 18 and Tanya is 28. They were a perfect match and Tanya was exactly what Michael was looking for. Well, Michael had had a pretty typical childhood. Tanya did not. Tanya grew up with her mother. She never knew her father, and she was basically allowed to do anything she wanted. Her mother had no rules. There was little to no punishment for anything that Tanya would do. And Tanya learned very young she could do whatever she wanted because her mother didn't seem to care. As a child, Tanya never really fit in with any of the kids that she went to school with or in her neighborhood. She was definitely more of a loner. Once she entered high school, she found a group of kids who were very into doing substances and drinking alcohol, and she began to start hanging out with them and kind of developing a little bit of a friendship. But Tanya was very much a solitary person because Tanya only cared about Tanya, and other people were just something that they could add to her life. Like everything in her life, every relationship, every person she contacts or has contact with, I guess is a better way of saying it, but all she thinks about is what she can get from the other person. She has no interest in giving to other people. So her relationships are very, very surface. As a teen, she was also essayed, and this led her to beginning to consensually have sex with many partners. And this is sometimes a trauma response for people who are R-worded. A trauma response can almost be that this has happened to me, so I'm not going to let it happen again. If I'm always willing to have sex, no one can do that to me. Now, someone going through this, they're not consciously thinking, oh, I'm going to do this and then this will happen. It's a trauma response. And then years later, when someone goes to get therapy, they start understanding why they did certain things. But at this point, Tanya is sleeping with a lot of different people. And the problem is, none of these people care about her at all. Most of the relationships she was in were extremely abusive. Tanya then had 3 children in her late teens and early 20s, and she needed to find a way to support herself and these 3 children. So she decided to begin doing sex work. And how she did this was she became a dominatrix. And she actually enjoyed being a dominatrix. The problem was something was missing for her, because in the situation where she is a dominatrix, so if you don't know, if somebody is a sub and a dom, there's always a safe word. And basically, both people have a safe word. If anybody says the safe word, whatever activity is going on stops. Well, Tanya didn't like that her clients had safe words. She didn't want to have to stop just because they would want her to. She wanted to have complete control, and she definitely wanted to be a lot more violent than the clients would be interested in. And this is what led her to FetLife, to try to find a partner who was a sub who would be more interested in the things that she wanted to do. So Michael and Tanya, they're both on FetLife. They start talking on a message board. They're sending each other back messages, and they realize their fantasies match up very well, and they're both very interested in participating in the exact same opportunities. So they decide, let's take this offline, let's meet in real life, and let's do the damn thing. When the couple met in person, they were both so excited because in terms of their kinks, they would be considered on the very extreme side. They really were going to take things really, really far, a lot farther than probably most people would be comfortable. These weren't 2 people that were interested in tying each other up. They wanted to do things like choke each other unconscious. They wanted to involve knives. And with them choking each other, and they were choking each other with each other's permission, but apparently they were both very turned on by, doing this to their partner and watching their eyes roll back in their head as they, I guess, go unconscious. I've never choked anyone out before, so I'm not exactly sure what happens, but apparently they really liked watching the person become unconscious. Then also they involved knives, and it was getting very, very extreme. There were a number of times where both of them had to get stitches because there were that bad of cuts that they had done to each other. Again, both of them are consenting to all of this. For Michael, this was exactly what he wanted. He wanted Tanya and he wanted no one else. He was living his dream in his mind, and he was very, very committed to Tanya. Tanya, on the other hand, Michael was just another person that she had sex with. When she met Michael, she was in a long-term relationship with another sub, and to her, Michael was just kind of another notch on her bedpost. It wasn't, to her, this really intense, close, loving relationship. This was strictly, to her, playing out her kinks and finding someone who will go as far as she wants to go. Eventually, the two kind of got bored with each other because they had done everything that they had wanted together, and I guess it just got old. And the fact that they have nothing in common, and it's not like they go on dates or they get to know each other or they're like developing this relationship. It's all strictly just sex. So there's not any relationship developing between them. So the two of them become bored, and Michael starts seeing other people. Tanya continues seeing other people. They're both well aware of this. Tanya decided that she wanted Michael back. And the way she was going to get him back full time was to go through with his ultimate fantasy. Michael's ultimate fantasy is to kidnap, essay, and take the life of an unwilling victim. So this is no longer consenting adults. This is straight up crimes. So Tanya expresses to Michael that she wants to go through with this ultimate fantasy they have. And the two of them, they don't really have a plan. They decide to start going to malls and looking for teen girls. They were specifically looking to target a teen girl. The two of them kind of did dry runs. They would go into malls, look for a teen girl who was on her own, and try to get her to leave the mall with them. And they weren't very successful at it, and thank God. But they also realized there's going to be a lot of witnesses. People are going to see us at the mall. People are going to see her at the mall. There's CCTV cameras. Like, they realize this is not how we're going to achieve our goal. And it's awful to call it a goal, but it's what they wanted to do. So Tanya decides to come up with the most twisted birthday present for Michael for his 19th birthday. What she does is she presents him with photos that she had gone on Facebook and looked for teens that would match the type of victim they were looking for. And she would, I'm assuming, take a screenshot of their profile picture, but she had a bunch of pictures of girls. They don't know these girls. She's just randomly found them on Facebook. And she basically says to him, like, choose whichever one you want. We'll go get her and we'll do this. And so I guess they start basically trying to use Facebook to find out where they can actually find these girls in real life. They're going to the schools that they would say they would attend. If they would, make plans to go to the mall, they would follow and wait outside, seeing if they could find the girl. And this is a PSA. Don't put shit on social media of where you are, ever. Never give your location. If you have, and I think most people do this, but I also know there's a lot of young people that watch this channel. And if you, say for example, if you go and you want to show pictures of where you were and what you were doing, all of this, don't post it while you're actually there. Take your pictures that you want to put on social media, keep them. When you are no longer in that location, then put them online. And I know people get told this all the time, but in true crime, it's astounding how much information is put online of exactly where someone is located. And really bad things end up happening. But thankfully, in this case, this whole plan never worked. They could never find the girl they were looking for at where she was. And anyways, they decide they're going to give up this plan. They end up on New Year's Eve finding a victim just by chance. New Year's Eve 2012 was a very busy night. Like most New Year's, lots of people are at bars, at clubs, having house parties. And there was a 27-year-old Noelle Paquette who was at a house party with a bunch of her friends. And she was having an absolutely great time. She was a school teacher and she was a really happy, loving, just wonderful spirit. The one thing that could be said about Noelle is she may have been a little bit too trusting. She ended up at a house party with her boyfriend, and at first they're having a really good time, but both of them had had a lot to drink and they end up in this argument. And the boyfriend wants to leave and go home, and he wants, obviously, for Noelle to go with him. And she's like, no, I'm staying here. I'm having a good time. It's New Year's Eve. I don't need you. And I have to say that would be my response as well. But she decides she's going to stay and just continue enjoying her night. So around 2:30 a.m., Noelle has had all the fun she wants to, and now she wants to go home. And it's New Year's Eve, so getting a taxi, this is 2012. So I don't think Uber was around in 2012. Maybe, I don't know. Not in Sarnia, for sure it wasn't. But she couldn't get a cab because it's New Year's Eve and, it's really hard to get a cab on New Year's Eve. I can remember one New Year's Eve. It was one New Year's Eve and I was downtown. I used to live in Toronto and I was downtown Toronto. And me and my friends would go out to this bar and you're wearing barely anything. When you're young on New Year's Eve, you're just like barely wearing anything with a tiny little jacket. And I can remember me and a couple of my friends, we waited 3 hours in the freezing cold trying to get a cab. So getting a cab New Year's Eve is not an easy option. So she decided she was just going to start walking home. As she's walking home, Tanya is driving down the street and she spots her and she asks Noelle if she wants a ride. And at first Noelle is like, no, that's okay. I'll just walk. And Tanya kept trying to persuade her. And Noelle is looking in the car and it's a single female. And obviously as females, if a single male pulls up and asks if we want to ride, it's a hard no. If a single female pulls up, it may be where we may consider it a little bit more just because, you may think this person is just trying to help you or keep you safe. Whatever the reason, Noelle decides that she's going to accept the ride and she gets in the car with Tanya. So they're driving for a little while and then Tanya pulls over and Michael gets in the car. So how Michael ends up in the car is Tanya is driving and Noelle is in the passenger seat. And Tanya had texted Michael saying, I've got what we're looking for. And they kind of between text plan where she's going to pick him up. So she's just driving with Noelle. Noelle has no idea what's going on. And she pulls up and Michael gets in the back seat. And as soon as he gets in the back seat, he takes out a knife and holds it to Noelle's neck. The two of them tell Noelle if she just goes along with what they want, they will let her survive. But they had no plan ever to let her survive. When they had planned this ahead of time, the plan was we're not leaving any witnesses. And when they had discussed it, not only had they discussed no witnesses, the two of them think that taking someone's life is going to be the ultimate sexual high. So, yeah. I don't know. So So Tanya drove about 30 kilometers outside of Sarian. The couple had already planned a location previously that when they did get a victim, this is where they would take the victim to. So the three of them arrive. Michael gets out of the car. He grabs Noelle, grabs her out of the car and throws her on the ground. And I can't imagine how terrified this young woman was. Noelle naturally cried out, screamed, and, they would cover her mouth to muzzle her screams. Michael ended up R-wording her, and then the two of them took her life, and she had 49 stab wounds. After they had finished what they had done, the two of them had a very emotional embrace. They had both just done what they had always dreamed of. Like, go F yourself. So they get back into the car and they start driving, I'm assuming back to Sarian or their house or whatever they're driving. And then they get pulled over for just a random traffic stop. Like, it has nothing, nobody's suspecting them of anything. It's New Year's Eve. There's also a lot of, on New Year's Eve, I know they have a lot of where they'll, they set up where they stop people just to make sure people aren't drinking and driving. Whatever it was, they had some random traffic stop. The first thing the cop noticed is both of them are covered in blood, and so is the interior of the car. So the cop realizes something very serious is going on here. Like, this is not what I'm expecting when I pull someone over. So the police officer is inspecting the two of them and notices that Michael has a really severe injury on his leg. And the cop is like, what the hell is going on? And the two of them, actually, no, Tanya told the police officer that it was New Year's Eve and we were out in the woods just getting our kink on. And, it was just the two of us and we both were, interested in what we were doing and nothing was done. And, and it's just like, shut up, Tanya, shut up. So the cop says to Michael, you need to go to the hospital. You have a serious injury in your leg. So while he's, the ambulance comes, he gets on the stretcher. While he's being taken to the hospital, he asks the ambulance attendants, is this the strangest thing you've ever experienced, or is this the strangest thing that you've ever seen? And the EMTs are confused because they don't know what the hell this guy is talking about. But they do, obviously, when they get to the hospital and he's taken by the hospital to treat his injuries, the paramedics very quickly go to the police and tell them, this is what this guy said and it seems really off and you might want to look into this. But trust me, the police, they were already going to be looking into this. So at the hospital, the doctors determined that he is actually going to need surgery for his injury. And one thing they noted is that the injuries look self-inflicted. So they are really puzzled as to what exactly was going on. So another thing that the police found very suspicious is Michael's now in surgery and Tanya is just hanging out in the ER area. Now, if you're with someone and they sustain an injury and, then they're having surgery, you're obviously going to stay at the hospital with the person, especially if it's, your partner. You're going to, it's not like you're going to drop them off and leave. You're going to stay and see if they're okay. But the nursing staff found Tanya's behavior extremely suspicious. And it seemed to them that she wasn't really concerned with how Michael was doing. She was more concerned with what he may or may not have said to police, and she was more concerned with what the police were thinking about what was going on. Then on January 2nd, Noelle Paquette's body was discovered, and it was very quickly determined that the main suspects were Michael and Tanya. Both of them were arrested. And when they were arrested, they both just kind of confessed to everything. And they didn't really have any, they just kind of admitted it and were like, yeah, that's what we did. Like, no, gee, I'm sorry, I murdered an innocent girl or anything. Like, they were just like, yeah, we did that. Yeah, Like, ugh. Both of them pled guilty in February 2016. And Michael tries to claim that he did this to spare Noelle's family and his family of the trauma of a trial. No, you know what you could have spared? Noelle's life. So there would be no trial that her family has to go through. What you could have done was let her live the amazing life that she was living. But you chose to be a selfish, disgusting pig and kill her because it was your fantasy. Bastard. The two of them were sentenced to life with the possibility of parole after 25 years. And I just want to clarify, I'm Canadian, if you don't know. So in Canada, the most severe sentence that you can receive is life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years. That is the highest sentence you can get. And I see when I hear other YouTubers or even just television shows, when they talk about crimes in Canada, they present this sentence as though these people are only going to serve 25 years. That's not the case at all. These people, both of them, will die in prison. Everyone is given the possibility of parole after 25 years. One thing to note is huge killers, when they commit crimes, a lot of them, they don't even go to their parole hearings because they know they're not going to get parole. So just know, if it's a Canadian case and they say life with the possibility of parole after 25 years, it does not mean in 25 years they're getting out. It just means they have the possibility of parole. And in a case like this with these two people, they're not going to get parole. They'll die in prison. And when the judge sentenced them, this is what he said to them. You chose in the darkest, most violent way to satisfy your overpowering lust. Your actions are vile and they are despicable. And as a result, you will be removed from society for what perhaps may be the rest of your lives. And these two bitches, I need to stop swearing. YouTube does not like when I swear. They don't like when I use violent words. If you've been watching my videos for a while, you may notice that I'm trying not to say certain words because YouTube doesn't like it. So I have to censor myself a lot in what I'm saying. So if you ever are watching my videos and it sounds really weird the way I'm saying something, it's probably because I know YouTube, like YouTube daddy spanks me sometimes and says you're a bad girl. And I'm trying not to be a bad girl. So that is the end of today's story. So I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who tunes in. Thank you to everyone who gives a like to the video. I know it seems like such a small thing, but it means so much if you like or comment and interact with the video because it helps me so much with the channel. So any engagement you can do with the video, I greatly appreciate it. I hope you all are doing an amazing, and go out and do something that makes your soul happy today. And I will see you in the next one.